Hello and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. Today we're going to do the best years of songs of a year. 1987 we're up to now. So if anyone watched 1986, they'll know that it was a really strong year for me, you know, personally. 20 songs, absolutely mad. I wanted to include more, but obviously you can't keep, the video can't go on for hours and hours. So we're up to 1987, which was also a brilliant year, but probably not quite as strong as 86. But I've got 15 songs here to talk about. They're all really good, a lot of variation again. So we're going to go from 15 to 1. One being my top song from 1987. So number 15, White Lion, Lonely Nights. This is off the Pride album, so I was really into White Lion when I was younger, and I still listen to him a bit now. Really melodic rock, you know, well, verging on heavy rock, but you know, very melodic. It's actually, I wouldn't say it's AOR, but it was definitely on the heavy rock side. Mike Tramp was the lead vocalist. You know, probably not the best vocals in the world, but you know, he was still good and he fitted right in with the sound. He had the right proper look as well. Do you know what I mean? But the guitarist as well was amazing. Vito Bratta, I think he's pronounced. And Lonely Nights was more of a, it wasn't a single or anything, but it was the second track on the album, and I think it just, I don't know, it had a real coolness about it. It really did sound like a cool track, and I loved it. It was hard to pick out a track actually from this album, like so many of these albums are, but I really like this album, and Lonely Nights was my pick. Number 14. They might not appear on my list much, but I was really into this album when it came out, and it's Manowar, Blow Your Speakers. So this is off the Fight in the World album. It was a really fun album. It was, I think it took a bit of stick because it was a little bit more, I don't know, they went a bit more melodic, I suppose, on this, a bit more catchy than their older stuff. But I really liked it. The production was great as well, and Blow Your Speakers was a proper fun song. It was just about playing metal loud, and it's quite an amusing song, but a really good. Obviously, the vocalist for Manowar is amazing, and this was like a real good song to listen to. Really easy to listen to, a real fun song if you haven't heard it. Number 13. It's from a band, an English band, a British band, Shy. And it's Can't Fight the Nights off their Excess All Areas album. So this is known a bit of a classic AOR melodic rock album actually, and it's really good. I actually preferred Brave the Storm, which was the album before, but there's no doubt about it, the quality on this. Mentioned before, Tony Mills, the singer, who sadly died, I think it was last year, but he hit some heights that you wouldn't believe. And like I said, when the American market was producing all these singers, it did make a change for a British singer to come out there and do what they were doing. And Can't Fight the Nights, a brilliant slice of melodic rock stroke AOR, brilliant. Number 12, going to America now, so Stan Bush and Barrage. So Stan Bush, American singer-songwriter, excellent voice, produces some real great melodic rock, AOR again. He's had a couple of standout albums, and this was one of them. Probably my favourite album that he's been on, and it's with the band Barrage. And I've chose Take It Like a Man off this album. It's a self-titled album, Stan Bush and Barrage, and Take It Like a Man is such a quality track because it's a little bit heavier. He does a lot of slow songs on his albums, a lot of ballads, which he's great at. But this picks up the tempo a little bit, a bit more rocking out a little bit more. Love it. Absolutely love Stan Bush's voice. Number 11, Motley Crue, Wild Side, from Girls, Girls, Girls. So yeah, I thought this was a real step up for Motley Crue from Theatre of Pain for me. Production as well, really clear. They had some great tracks on this. This is a real return to form after the little bit of dip, like I said, in Theatre of Pain. Wild Side's the opening track. I think it's great. Again, it's another fun song which the Crue are known for, obviously. yeah, you had to make it on the list. Loved that album. Well, number 10, Guns N' Roses and Rocket Queen off Appetite for Destruction. So, gotta admit it, I've probably overplayed Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction album. You know, it's such a classic. You've got to, you know, I had to include it, but I don't really, you know, I think I just played it constantly. I actually, you know, I mentioned this in my 1987 ranking the albums, that I got this the day it came out, Appetite for Destruction, and then I was playing it for about a year, constantly. Just fell in love with it. And then they brought out, I think, Sweet Child of Mine after about a year, or they released it twice, I think. And then they hit big, and everyone was talking about Guns N' Roses, and I'd already been listening to them for a year before that. And then I think, you know, just they're constantly played in. They were Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine. They're songs that are. I think that's why I chose Rocket Queen, because it's, even though it's every song on this album are quite, you know, well known, this is one of the lesser known ones, and I think it's great because of the breakdown near the end of the song, and it changes. It's a great song. My number 9. Bit of a difference in my sort of musical style, but I love this album, and that's Candlemass and The Well of Souls off of Nightfall. So this is the first time I heard Candlemass back in the day. I remember reading the review and it getting, I think it might have been in Kerrang when Kerrang was good. It got 5 out of 5. I'll give it a go, and I loved it. Obviously Black Sabbath doom type metal. The singer, you know, he's a bit very operatic. It probably wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but I think it fitted nicely in with this band, and he was really good. He could hit some high notes as well, especially on this song. And it, you know, they're into their real doomy 6, 7, 8 minute tracks. That was a great track off of Nightfall. My number 8, Dokken, Kiss of Death off Back for the Attack. So for me, Under Lock and Key was easily the best Dokken album for me, and Back for the Attack, I think it was at the time it seemed a little bit too long, too many filler tracks for my liking. I mean, Under Lock and Key I think had 10 tracks, this had about 13 or 14 I think. Production was poor, and I've heard that there was a mix up with the mix when in the studio, and they only had the demo tapes as such, and then that was put forward because they run out of time. But fans liked the rougher sound. I didn't at all. I thought Under Lock and Key had a brilliant production, and then it went downhill a little bit for me, but it's still a strong album. You know, Dream Warriors was on there, Standing in the Shadows, some great tracks. Kiss of Death though, the guitaring, that's why I chose this one. The guitaring from George Lynch is just out of this world, some of his best he's ever done. Absolutely love Kiss of Death, brilliant song. Number 7, TNT, Everyone's a Star off Tell No Tales. Yeah, this is great. This is a brilliant album. I remember this was another one of them ones that stuck with me all the way through the 80s. Love Tony Harnell's voice. Even now he's a great vocalist, absolutely great. He's appeared on a lot of different stuff other than TNT. You could check him out with Starbreaker. I think he's been on one of the Freefall albums. He brought out Love Killers. He's with Love Killers last year. His voice is just amazing. He might not sing as high as much now as he did back then, but God, he could really hit some notes. One of the best vocalists out there. Everyone's a Star. I chose that. You know, I was looking through the list of songs again. I nearly got 10,000 Lovers in one, and then I just thought, no, this is like bang straight into the album. That brilliant riff at the beginning, excellent song, brilliant musicians, all of them. Number 6. This might be further up on a lot of people's lists, but it's Whitesnake and Still of the Night. So 1987 for me, personally, I liked the few albums before better. And I think Coverdale had an operation on his voice at the time. And I think that's, for me, his voice is not quite as strong. production as well. For me, I didn't like it. I preferred the more stripped down production that was on the albums before, but it was still a great album. It's obviously such a massive album amongst heavy rock and metal fans. You can't argue with that. The 1987 album, the success it had was mental. But Still of the Night, well, that's one of the best Whitesnake tracks ever, and a lot of bands have tried to copy, you know, he sort of that song in particular. I've heard it a few times. Voodoo Circle, I think, did a song. It sounded very similar. There's a lot of bands that have tried to emulate this song, but they were the pioneers of it, you know. So, and a lovely bit breakdown all the way. That breakdown in the middle of the song is amazing. That's my number 6. My number 5. Going to go to a bit of Christian metal now. Shout and Winners or Losers. So off the It Won't Be Long album. So, you know, I've said before, lyrically, I've never really, you know, I'm an atheist. I don't really believe in anything like that. But some bands you just can't ignore for their, you know, just basically how good they are and how technical they are. This band, you know, they're brilliant. Ken Tamplin's an excellent singer. He even is now. And this album was full up. It Won't Be Long was full up with just hit after hit. Any song could have been a hit, you know. It was just the hooks and melodies and the choruses were amazing, you know. And one of my favourite bands out of the 80s, Shout. Absolutely brilliant. My number 4, Pretty Maids, Love Games of Future World. So Future World was one of my favourite albums of all time. Pretty Maids, this album is my favourite Pretty Maids album. I think it was, you know, this was another one that I didn't just listen to it when it came out in 87. I was listening to it for years and years and years. Love Games was the single. What a catchy song. I love the verses, the way the melody, the vocal melodies running over those verses with that bass and drums. Superb. One of the best Pretty Maids songs in my opinion. Number 3, Helloween and Helloween. So this is off Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1. Huge album, huge. You know, I think when Maiden were, I don't know, going off the boil a little bit, I suppose, with the album before, which was Somewhere in Time, they sort of came along with this, and it was very Maiden-esque, you know. And I love everything about this. The great musicians. Michael Kiske is a brilliant singer. He still is good now. And this was the 13-minute track. I think it was 13 minutes. And the twists and turns and changes and, you know, the transitions in this song are amazing. It's everything you want from a long, epic song. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant song. Number 2. Lizzie Borden, Lord of the Flies off Visual Lies. So, you know what? I was just like, what track do I choose off of this? I think this one hit my number 1 album of 1987. And it did that because every track is outstanding. So I literally could have closed my eyes and pointed to what track I wanted, because it would have just made it to this far up on the list. No matter what track it was on this album, they were all equally fantastic. And I was thinking, right, Eyes of a Stranger, should I go for that? Should I go with Me Against the World? What an amazing song that is. I was just, every song. And in the end, I just picked one because I was just battling with myself which one to have, and Lord of the Flies just is up there with everything on the album. Brilliant song by Lizzie Borden. If you haven't got into Lizzie Borden, love him, absolutely love him. That leaves my number 1. Now this is number 1 mainly because of recently. So I loved this song when it came out, but not as much as a lot of the songs on this list. But I've been listening to this band more and more over the last few months, and that's Sabotage and Hall of the Mountain King. I just fucking love this song. I mean, like I'm saying, the love comes even more now than it did. I've been listening to this non-stop. It is brilliant. Obviously the the vocal talents of John Oliver. I love his voice. It's very unique. I love that shriek that he does. No one else, you know, was doing that sort of thing at the time. Brilliant songwriting by Chris Oliver, rest in peace. But Sabotage have really like crept up since I've been doing this channel actually, and people have been saying listen to this, listen to that, and they've been slowly creeping up of my favourite bands. I'm not saying they're my favourite band, but I think on this year, Hall of the Mountain King, the atmosphere in that song, absolutely like evil sounding vocals, really, you know, but brilliant, absolutely fantastic, epic song. That's my number one, Sabotage, Hall of the Mountain King. And if I did this list, I don't know, 6 months ago, it probably might have made the list, that song, but it wouldn't have been number one, nowhere near. So I'm really glad this channel's bringing a lot of, you know, new things into what I'm listening to. Like I said, I got Hall of the Mountain King when I was younger, when it came out, but I didn't love it then like I do now. That's my list of 1987. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. Or I hope you're going to enjoy it, because I did. We'll be doing a couple of reactions later, hopefully. If not, that'll be tomorrow. But great. Please subscribe. Bottom right hand corner button. Thank you very much.